So I'm going to be sharing from the website, from the teaching source Kosher Torah, about dreams and myths from Erick Fromm. Both dreams and myths are important communications from ourselves to ourselves. If we do not understand the language in which they're written, we miss a great deal of what we know and tell ourselves in the hours we are not busy manipulating the outside world. Now, for me, introspection, or kind of what is outside, what is inside, introspect versus extrospect, like looking out. So I would say that in my own recovery from, always looking outside just for something versus being on the inside, I had a great conversation with a woman named Riet years ago, 5 years ago or so, that maybe 4 years ago, that she was sharing with me her version of understanding like a 12-step program, taking steps in the right direction, like that life is a path. And we discussed a few topics. First of all, we said anonymity is good practice in general. In other words, it's not that it has to be a certain person, but that it's like a pattern. It's not about not needing to make personal struggles, just recognizing there is, inventorying. Instead of denial, we face the facts. We identify the issue, and that's freeing. Because they're symptoms. The issues are symptoms. We learn from them. Acceptance is to not be in lack and to recognize the light at the end of the tunnel when we trust the process. And the progress is more important than the perfection. When we let go and we let God, we can see we're here for a reason. And we can also get into the conversation within ourselves of functionality in systems and self and family. We can let everything that's here teach us. And looking into our defensiveness, there's like an adamant, determined immediately. It could be religious or politics where we need to be right. It could be events, which is like we have an emotional stake in it. We can keep the focus where it belongs by detaching with love, not to be stymied or like stopped, halted. The accuracy doesn't need to be the highfalutin kind of arguments. I know I'm above. And rather, it's like we can have a toolkit to explore the triggers and issues in a constructive versus a destructive way as we percolate and formulate feelings. And insecurity and inadequacy become overwhelming, and therefore the goal is not to be mechanical. We can actually ask our questions. Curiosity is the most helpful thing when we're open. When we're open to the future, it's to ask ourselves what was helpful, what wasn't. What's it like to be in the light or the solution? And she also frames our identity. We could be like a worker among workers, that life is work, could be hard work, could be fun work. And in this way, we can use discernment, our critical thinking, and we can see that we can even do things without a lot of willingness and with resentment or reluctance. And then I continued to go on to a meeting, a recovery meeting, a 12-step kind of meeting, and I got a lot of realizations, and I wrote them down. Some of them were things people said, some of them were ideas I had. And so first of all, we don't need to carry someone else's burdens. And when I'm not a victim anymore with a card that says, okay, it's okay to hurt because, you've been hurt, it starts to tell me, the consciousness starts to show me I'm a human being empowered by other human beings, like a sun through the cloud or moon, reflected light, is basically being able to be a flower that grows also in the moonlight. We can expect the benefit of the doubt when we don't give it, only if we're like okay with being abusive, because when we get back to the basics and we have a daily reprieve, it's like, I don't want to continue this way. We have the courage to see ourselves in everyone and be in a state of gratitude that it never needs to get stressful again. We're learning to say no to bad, and refusing to hide our bad toxic habits is refusing to coddle our toxicity, and being able to even say I need help and identify what. Like, I'm struggling with X, can you help me? And the same way we say to God is like always with us, the presence. And we can gain the benefits of seeing God in others, letting God talk to us with others' gifts, and not take someone else's contagious or triggering self-loathing personally. It's not even about accepting it. It's also like it's not even about receiving it. We don't even have to accept it. We can prime ourselves to be truly honest, like, oh, I don't like that. Like, I don't like how that makes me feel. And that in and of itself could be extremely insightful for us when we can say, like, oh, I didn't know how to say no. as a character defect, instead of like when the other person is in such a state of despair and they're like pressuring everyone, and then we're making it about us and our role and the story is not important. It's more like no one will ever be enough if we don't think we're enough, because we let others decide for us. Rather, it's okay to have outside help with deep work and healing, but there's a payment when we're sick and a payment when we're healthy. We can clear the wreckage of the past. We can be guiding or being guided. We can be supported, being supported. And everything is, about in moderation. There's a balance. Even judgmentalness kind of. I would say, like I was writing at the time, that using food like a drug could lead to a dopamine hangover, and how weed is also like a serotonin booster, causing less. Better to smoke or eat not together, because they'll cause double depletion the next day. And confidence means not getting sidetracked as much as by people looking to break someone down, since I'll be harder to break when I'm strong in me. Can't even engage in that way, like to let them into that place that's supposed to be between me and me, or me and God, like the core self. And when we're accepting and adjusting as if it's going to be forever, we learn our own lives for ourselves had become unmanageable. So conforming to a way that works, like a worker among workers, remember that, is like an awareness that is less answers required, so more answers are given. Like we don't always need to know like exactly, so we can actually receive more answers because they're different than what we expected. We might have been looking for a specific answer, but when we're open, we can receive actual answers, even if they're not what we thought of. And also that to have hope is literally in the darkest moments, is to have the most amazing strength, because we can't live in our own skin if we can't live in the skin of others, and vice versa. Like if we're expecting someone else to not be in their own skin, it's a projection of our own inability to be in our own skin. And what is a leader? Someone who leads by example. We can't let someone else tell us we're ready. We have to believe and want it. Nothing was waking me up, for example. I had to like wake up. Like when someone dies, this is the most beautiful way to look at it, because also it's why, for example, there were times I wished I would die, or I wished my life would end, is because God loved her more than we loved her. Being loved keeps us alive. Letting ourselves be loved requires being known, seen, and trusted. To be loved, to be really loved, to be seen and loved, to be heard and loved, to be known and loved, to be trusted and loved. And we can thank others for sharing their giftedness with us, and not listen to what they're saying, but watch which way their ass is going. Is also sometimes like, if they're saying mean things, but you see they're walking in a direction that's towards something bad, it could be that their self-loathing is coming out. But if they're saying things, that are kind and sweet, it's like we can recognize that they're walking in the way towards hope and patience. And so, like I said, nothing was waking me up. I got a chance to sort of say, I want to be choosing life. And when someone dies, sometimes it's like we didn't love them enough, everybody. God loved them and wanted them to be with God. God wanted them with the godliness rather than give us any more chances to love. It's like sometimes we don't need to say anything to help. Listening is love too. Listening is love. And sometimes we don't need a vent. Sometimes we'll receive more from being present and giving our attention. We actually get more out of it. We're like given the food we need, the reassurance. And in terms of fear, I wrote what they say about somebody, about Renee. Is this someone's sister or something? That she has a whiny voice and she's in pain. She thinks she lacks and is a victim. She isn't grateful or self-soothing or sufficient. And she's a burden. So it's like seeing myself through that, recognizing again one last time that nothing is coming to wake us up. We have to wake up. We have to choose life. Life is new. And life is recovery. Life is reflecting the light. Wish you a blessed day.